My grandmother used to sing me Indian songs, you know, when I was a child. We have a canoe song about a young man got lost on a canoe, traveled too far out. He got out and lost in the fog, and he's singing, "Bring me home. You know the way home, canoe. I trust in you." It's real beautiful.
There's a word for what the water is to us, inhabited, the giver of life.
It's like that with all the people on the West Coast. The biggest part of your life is the water, the river, the ocean. No matter what the Indian people do, they are born onto water.
Just to sit out in Puget Sound was one of the most pleasurable things in my life. One uncle saw to it that my sister and I got to go fishing and clamming and berry picking, and I can remember he did hunt duck from the canoe.
My grandfather would load everything on a canoe, and he'd pull up the river. My grandmother, she was childbearing at that time. She talked Indian to my grandfather, says, "I'm going to have this child now." So my grandfather says, "Well, I'll keep pulling up the river. I'll meet you up at some village." So my grandmother had her child. She washed his face in the river, cleaned him up, and she continued her journey to catch up with my grandfather.
The river means to me the livelihood. It's like holy water. It produces food for us.
I learned how to spear fish on a canoe. And I'd take that spear and I'd catch that fish there. Every time I'd catch that fish and I'd throw it in my canoe.
I don't know if you've seen any of the pictures of some of the whalers of the Indians. They wore their imagination. They didn't wear no clothes.
My dad told me that if you came into camp, it sounded like a beehive, kids playing and the women busy visiting and flaying the fish. They all had their own signals. Like the first morning dove, Grandpa'd come in and tell Grandma, "Well, get ready. The salmon are running." 2-3 men had the gift to call the fish. This was a sacred thing. One of our last chiefs could stand out there in that cold water all during the fish runs and all night long. And as long as he stood there, the fish came.
Me and my wife lived further inland on the Columbia River. My grandparents grew up riding horses. A lot of the tribal members are fishermen. They go down below the Grand Coulee Dam, and that's as far as a salmon can run. But most of the people are hunters nowadays.
Before the dam came in, my family did a lot of fishing up in Kettle Falls. When they put the dam in, it just raised the water, and it's all underwater now.
We lost a lot of our land when the dam was built. We lost a lot of things. We used to go down there and camp just looking for food. Now they don't do that anymore because everywhere you go, you're not supposed to.
And that's where they lived in my grandfather's days. Always by the creek, always by the river, always the water.
I'm just proud to be part of them. Even though I don't have the fish anymore, like it used to be. Progress gives me electricity. But I still love fish. I'm just crazy over fish.
I got the biggest chance of my lifetime when my grandfather was building canoes. I worked with that old man all day long. His word was law when it come to building canoes. He taught me a lot about being on your own, knowing what to do. As young as I was, I started to think, well, I have to be like that because my grandpa ain't gonna be here too long. And the more he cut on his canoe, the more I studied it.
Now I hear the cry of the young people, where's our canoes? Why don't we get to race? This is something that we're striving for, is to bring back some of our culture, carvers and other people like myself. We find ourselves in wood. It's like this wood wants to be something, and I'm trying to make it something that it wants to be. My grandmother told me everything on this earth has life, like the red cedar. I feel that it was put on this earth to watch over us and to help us in our need. Same way with the deer and the fish. If we take care of it, it'll always be here for us to use. But if we misuse it, it's not going to be here. And this is something that my grandmother gave me as a young boy, that everything has spirit and don't take advantage of it. And as I grow up, I teach my children this, and I try to teach my grandchildren.
It takes a long, long time to grow a tree like that. And the cedar was a kind of a friend to the Indians.
This song was sung to the tree before they cut it down. Look at me, friend. I have come to ask for your dress, for you have come to provide for us. For there is nothing about you which I cannot use. Long life giver. Now it's going to be cut down, but it isn't going to die. It's going to live again in the form of the canoe.
I cannot get close to the log until it's ready. In your heart, you really cry for it, but you cannot rush it. You cannot. I believe that's the way everything is in this world. The time will tell you, well.
There was a native skill involved in the way the canoe builder carved it to make it just the right dimension, thickness, and shape to make it master in the water. My dad's race canoe, the question mark. I remember the training that it took to be a winning team, the power of mind and willpower over physical discomfort.
They invited me to go for a ride. I said, sure, and I'll go for a ride. But holy mackerel, they went 4 miles wide open, and I had never a paddle in my hand. After I got back to college, my roommate looked at me and said, "Guy, you're some tremendous. What have you been doing?" And I said, "Well, I've been racing with the rhythm and the chant and the strain of competition. Very exciting. I wouldn't trade that for an experience of playing in the Super Bowl."
My boy, he's 15 and he come home with a paddle. I said, "Where did you get this? Who did this?" He said, "I did." So the next night I went down with him and we've been kind of carving together, learning together. It's bringing my strength back as an Indian, learning the cultures. Makes in here strong, you know, makes me strong inside.
Every time you paddle, you know, your rhythm is like with your heartbeat. There's a connection with your mind, your soul, your spirit, your body. It was like as if it was a birth. And that's how I felt when I seen that canoe going through the ocean. And I was glad that there were people there to help, to push and pull, to push and pull. And I said, now it's alive. We just had to watch it grow.
We've got to be who we are and keep our culture, whether it's building canoes or fishing and teaching our children. We're in a little faster time, and in 100 years, We don't see a lot of our resource here anymore. We're going to bring those back. We're going to start planting trees along these rivers where they used to be. We've got the spring salmon coming back in the Skagit River. If we can protect them spring salmon, you know, that's just like the canoes. Come back home. That's just the beginning of Indian life again. For some reason, I feel very young.
When we no longer see the land and the white waves bar our path to home, it's only you, brother Canoe, keeps us above the ocean foam, safe on flying Canoe we come. Red cedar, take us